climbed out the window like he did on nights he went frog hunting. Feeling a thrill of fear and excitement, he ran around the side of the house, stopped when he saw two smoke-wreathed figures on the porch. Putting his back to the wall, Elijah peered around at them. "Sorry if I come across as mean," Pa said, running a hand through his thinning black hair. "Damn it, Cornbread, you remember the bad day. You know what happened to your pa." "How could I forget something like that?" Cornbread passed his pipe to Pa. "I was there when they took him, remember? We gonna barbecue this nigger, cook him nice and juicy. How you forget that shit? You act as if I don't know what crackers do to us. Yet you still keep going to Satan's cesspool." Pa shook his head, drank from Cornbread's bottle. "I don't want you giving the boys wrong ideas, especially Elijah." "I tell them the good things, Earl," Cornbread sighed. "Stories to make them happy. I'll never forget what I saw in Germany." For a few moments, cricket chirps were the only sound. "We found a bunch of the Hun in a trench. It's our lieutenant, this white boy. He makes us charge. 40 of us went in, Earl. 5 came out. A man's guts flew up and hit me in the face. I slipped and fell in a pool of blood. They shot my friend's head clean off, and his body pinned me to the dirt. They killed 35 of us, but they didn't kill me. I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior." Icy fingers crept up Elijah's spine as Cornbread repeated the words over and over. He wanted to shout out, say something to make his cousin's sadness go away, to make him Cornbread again. Pa put an arm around Cornbread's shoulder. "We all got our crosses to bear," said Pa. "It'll be all right." "Yeah," Cornbread said without emotion. "Can you just let me alone for a little while? I'll be okay." Patting Cornbread on the back, Pa headed inside. Frozen in fear of being caught, Elijah let out a sigh when he heard Pa's earth-shaking snores. He waited a few minutes for Cornbread to move. Finally, Cornbread settled his sixth string on his lap. Silent as a cat, Elijah headed into the tangled thicket. No one saw him go, not even the man on the porch, strumming a lonely tune. Burger's Hill sat halfway between Elijah's cabin and the Johnsons'. It rose above the skeletal trees, a hump of red grass that narrowed to a rounded crest. The full moon seemed to balance on top of it. Although he kept to the road, Elijah arrived tired, reeking of the swamp, and scratching a half a dozen mosquito bites. He spent the walk thinking about Cornbread. What did he do in town? Why did he act like things were okay when they obviously weren't? The fact that his cousin was so sad made him feel sick inside. Elijah started up the weed-choked path that curved around Burger's Hill, thorns grasping at his pants. The warm night felt sticky, like bugs crawling all over him. Manboy once told him and his friend Jimmy how Burger's Hill got its name. Back when the French ruled what would be Mississippi, a band of runaway Negro slaves joined Natchez Indian runaways in the swamp. Word spread in the French towns about the hidden Negro in Natchez colony. A slave master led a 200-man war party to wipe it out. They called him Burger, his real name some funny French name only Manboy could pronounce. Many French died along the way, eaten by alligators, bitten by poisonous insects, strangled by noxious fumes. When they came to the gloomy hill, they were greeted not by hungry, miserable slaves ripe for capture, but a horde of fully armed Negro and Natchez warriors. Like swamp demons, they fell on their oppressors with spear and sword and bloody axe, until blood permanently stained the grass. No bullet or sword could pierce their painted bodies. After the slaughter, the warriors disappeared just as quickly. Some French survivors said they faced 100 enemies, some said 1,000. They named the hill after Burger, who had the folly to anger the spirits of the swamp. Manboy always got into the story, making pow-pow noises for the rifles, chopping gestures for the axes, mentioning about 50 times they had some Natchez blood. Remembering Manboy brought all Elijah's fears to the front of his mind. The night was a pitch-black beast that could swallow him whole. 100 unseen horrors argued over how to split up his bones. He was alone in the dark, on a fool's errand, at the mercy of whatever crawled and swam and stalked the hill. He didn't know where they lurked, any more than he knew why he sought out Redbone. Pa never told him everything about the bad day, but he made sure his sons knew enough. Elijah knew they descended with guns and torches, hanging and burning 12 Negroes. He knew they dragged Pa's brother Cornelius behind a horse like an animal. He knew they peeled off his uncle's flesh with hot irons. He knew they took pictures of the murder and sold them as postcards. He knew there wasn't enough of Uncle Cornelius left to properly bury. Elijah passed a dead tree, gray and twisted, dotted with the shriveled remains of flowers, a humpbacked gargoyle gesturing obscenely at him with its many snake-like arms. Elijah imagined a burnt, mangled body hanging like a rag doll from its branches, the mouth open in a silent scream. The air was charred with the smell of cooked flesh. A body swung from every cypress. Elijah hurried from the phantoms, hating himself for being so scared. Nightmarish thoughts filled his head by the time he saw the hut, an ordinary wooden shotgun house. Thatch roof, no porch, no windows. Nearby, an old skin-and-bones donkey slept tied to a rickety wagon. A lantern made from an hourglass with a candle in it hung from the roof, shedding a cone of light on the doorway plaque that simply said, Redbone. Looking at his disheveled appearance, Elijah tucked in his shirt, tried to brush the mud off his feet, prepared to enter when a chilling thought struck him. Despite Pa's warnings, he and Jimmy had played on Burger's Hill before. Not once did he see a cabin. Come in, the silky voice drifted from inside. Elijah entered as if pulled by invisible hands. The smell of garlic choked his nostrils. He'd never seen a home so sparse. A hammock hung in a corner, one end nailed to the wall, the other to a fence post stuck in the sod floor. A blanket made of shirts and trousers sewn together lay over it. A pile of shoes filled most of the tiny room. Garlic and onion cloves hung from the ceiling. No room for company save the spiders and roaches scuttling about. This was the home of a drifter, someone who came to do a job, then left for the next. Even at his age, Elijah could see that. The room felt hotter than outside and had that musty scent, that Redbone scent. Mr. Redbone sat on a stool, a half-circle of candles and a whiskey bottle on the table in front of him. His tie undone, waistcoat on the floor, a cigarette in his long, delicate fingers. His eyes widened in surprise. Why, it's you, he said, voice full of concern. You should not have come here at night. You should have waited until daytime. He shrugged, lifted his shot glass in greeting. Well, you're here now. I appreciate your coming. Elijah didn't know what to say. The whole place had an uncanny feel that raised the hairs on the back of his neck. You're welcome, sir. I apologize for the mess, Mr. Redbone said in his smooth smoker's baritone. But as you can tell, I never stay in one place for too long. Take a seat, son. He gestured to the other stool. Elijah obliged. Mr. Redbone leaned forward, smiling. Elijah met his eyes for a moment and turned away just as quick. Hypnotic, they teased him to search for what secrets lay in their black depths. Elijah felt entranced by the room's only illumination, the 5 red candles from his dream. Standing in silver holders, they all burned bright, save the first one, which had no flame. Mr. Redbone downed the shot. Would you like something to eat? I could prepare some onion stew. No, sir. So polite, too. Elijah looked at the shoes on the floor. Would you like a pair? Go ahead, find a pair your size. Elijah felt himself slowly losing his will to Mr. Redbone's voice. Struggling to stay alert, he searched the pile. The stranger watched him, blowing thoughtful plumes of smoke from his nostrils. Elijah never got new clothes before, just hand-me-downs, and shoes weren't included.